Okay, so I'm going to get started. My name's Jehanne, and I'm from North Keep. And we were able to hold a virtual demo last month. And since that's a really new thing, I thought I'd just take you through what I did and why I thought it worked for that particular group. And just to say a little bit about who we were presenting the demo to, we do our fighter practices at the gym of a church that I'm a member of, and so they just let us use it. There's no fee or anything. And they saw us there and were like, oh, we have this senior group. They're the senior seekers, and they meet every Wednesday at lunchtime and learn about something new. Would you, do you guys ever do anything like a demonstration? And I was like, oh, do we? Yes, we absolutely do. So we set it up at that point, and that was back in December, and got on the schedule. And so they had actually stopped doing all of their content because of the COVID shutdown. It's still not open, the church building. And they hadn't really moved over to Zoom. They hadn't thought about it. So when I contacted the organizer and I said, so, I know we can't do it in person, but I'm willing to try it virtually if you guys are familiar with Zoom. And she's like, oh, we hadn't done that, but they're doing Sunday school on Zoom. They're doing all these other things on committee meetings on Zoom. So this should work. So we went ahead and did that. In planning for the demo, I tried to keep it really focused because it was a lunchtime demo. And I wanted to cover some of the different aspects that the SCA covers. Being the hobby of 1,000 hobbies, there's so much to cover. It would be very difficult to do it all in an hour, like do anything about it. So I put together some slides and in a PowerPoint, and I asked just a few people to prepare about 10 minutes, and I asked them to be pretty specific in the format, like were you introduced to the SCA? What is your specific focus in the SCA? And then dive into that a little bit, because then you get people's real passion, and that's always going to come across better in a virtual demo kind of thing. So here I'm going to go ahead and share the, and the question in the chat was like, yes, it's senior citizens. They're a group at the church that are mostly retirees that are just really interested in learning things. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here for the PowerPoint I made, and it was really, it was super simple. And see if I can do this. There. All right, so I started out with just saying how we started, our history. We started with this tournament. It was in the backyard of someone. They did some fighting. They crowned somebody, so that they could crown their beloved, the queen of beauty and whatnot. And that they then had to go on and get permits for future things. And so they chose the name Society for Creative Anachronism. And then as people joined and as it became more popular and it spread far and wide, it spread across the globe. And so we have many people from all across the world, and they're all a part of this 501c3 nonprofit educational organization. So I hit all of those like major talking points, right? Then I went ahead and did the mission statement of what exactly it was, and also then went on to say how, now a lot of this stuff, as an aside, Goldweird's newcomers about the SCA, the very first page, a lot of it, I reordered it a little bit, but a lot of the actual content was from that, because it's a really good overview. And one of the really good points that I like to say is, yes, people see us because we were all in garb at this demo. I actually was at work, but I took my banner to hang behind me and put on garb and stuff. So I looked the part. And so I said, you see us in these clothes and you might think Renaissance Fair. And that's very common. However, we're different in that everybody's a part of it. It is not a presentational thing like a Renaissance fair is. It is an active thing. Everybody's involved. You're living the dream. And then I was also wanting to make sure that they knew we're organized, as you can see from the map, we're organized into kingdoms, and each kingdom has local groups. Our group was the Barony of Northkeep, so I made sure to tell them that. And that across our kingdom alone, we have so many interests and so many things that we've learned about. And this is just, I mean, this is kind of shock and awe, but this is what I took from the OP. I actually got the idea from Zebeda's post on Facebook, where she said, see all these things that people got a thistle in. And so I took all of the thistles and then I cut out the duplicates and just put them all up there. So let them look at that for a minute. So you can see that, you know, it doesn't matter what part of the medieval world you're interested in, somebody in the SEA is right on that. They are going to be able to teach you about it, or they're going to be able to geek out over it with you, or just somehow like support. It's just fun to have other people that have the same interests as you do. So then I went to different people. First, I had Perrin. You might have seen, if you're friends with him, he posted this picture on Facebook because he had gotten ready for the demo and just pulled out all his arms and armor, and then some medieval board games and some clayware and just a bunch of different stuff as a demo setup. And this was a picture of it, but he was actually he was sitting in the middle of it. And he told how he got started in the SEA, and it was mostly the fighting that interested him and the different styles, and would show the different, like this helmet is for this thing, and this helmet is for the other one, and this sword is for this thing, and this sword is for the other one. So just a little bit, but not to overwhelm anybody. It was kept to just 10 minutes, and then asking people, do you have any questions? And they had questions about the board games and the clay. And then we just moved on to the next person, which that was Maddie Gilliland, or Matthew McGilfallon in Society. And so then he was able to show some of his artwork and say how he got started. He like was first, you know, through Melee, but then he got introduced to the SCA, and then he is an artist anyway, so he was really interested, and he talked a little bit about making your own pigments, making your own paints, and how it was very interesting to see how the medieval people would go and do all of that. So that really was a good thing for people to see. And this triptych, of course, is gorgeous. So that was good too. And then, let me see. Oh, not ready for that yet. Well, and then when I spoke a little bit about the herbal garden I was interested in. And although I like growing herbs and stuff, I'm really also interested in the functionality of day-to-day life. Like if you grow herbs, what do you grow them in as a medieval person? And so I showed them like pictures of the wattle beds from period sources, and then how I had made it, talked a little bit about like the difficulties, you know, and what I learned from that, and then the turf benches and what I learned during that process. And so that was just my presentation. And then we had Elizabeth also present, and she had tablet weaving and a hand woven tunic. And so she was able to show a little bit about that. And also something that was interesting is on some of the tablet weaving was heraldry. And so because I had mine behind me, Maddie had his behind him, Perrin had his shield with his arms on it behind him. So we were able to talk a little bit about heraldry and how in the medieval times, that's how you recognize people from far away. And even now at events, that it's really much easier to recognize people from far away. Like maybe you don't have your glasses on, but you can totally tell who they are because of the heraldry. And she also talked a little bit about service. So we covered like the main things of combat, artistry, and service, so that they got a good overview of the SEA. And that was pretty much, then I opened it up to questions. They had a few questions for us, but really they were just like, wow, you do that? You know, there are people just doing that. It's not something that everybody knows about. Now, I will say that what it didn't do is I don't really expect anybody to join the SCA from that demo. It's not so much of a recruitment tool, but it really is getting back to the educational aspect of the SCA, and really bringing that out and just letting the community at large know that this is what we do. As a side, the building, once it opens again, would be an incredible space for a site, but you have to get on the good side of the staff because they are not actually a rental place. And so I thought this was a nice little way to like get us more known and maybe get some brownie points with the staff so that they would be more likely to look favorably on our request when we should be able to do that. And then it was really cute because they were seniors, and here, I'm gonna stop that share because that's all blank. I got handwritten like little thank you notes from them about how much they appreciated it and how interesting it all was. So I felt really good about it. Do you have any questions about that particular demo, how something worked?
I have a question because it's interesting to know that it was more of an educational demo, which those are absolutely important. And, you know, I'm glad that you guys were able to do that and make it happen. But to me, when I was thinking of virtual demos that I would like to do, I was thinking more of on the recruitment side because I'm, you know, former hospitaler and Northern Regional hospitaler, so that's where my brain always goes. And so tell me what you would have done differently had it been for an audience that you weren't trying to educate necessarily as much. I mean, we always are, but that was more on that recruitment kind of a spin and focus. What would you have done differently in that instance?
I would have tried to engage them on like which part particularly interested them and let them know what online things were happening coming up, let them know that we do usually have in-person events, and, you know, describe that a little bit to them and just let them lead really on what their interest is and try and guide them to a class, an online meeting, you know, like some Pell work or something. You can at least work up the strength of your arm just by yourself, and that'll help whenever you are able to meet up in person. Something else, you know, when I usually do a demo, I have a guest book. And so people can sign it and you get your emails that way. And on my particular guest book that I designed, I have a bunch of different activities in the SCA so people can kind of check off their interests. And so when the hospitaler goes back to get in touch with them, they have a little bit more of an idea of what to push, like which next thing to invite them to.
So that could actually be like, I'm trying to think of how we've done that because I do online training for a living, and we're doing a lot of classes right now that are normally in person. They've asked us to do online versions. So we're doing blended with web-based, and we're doing webinars. And so maybe we had some kind of cool, pretty slide at the end of our slide presentation for our demo that was, if you want more information, you know, kind of thing, and have them, you know, put in the chat their info or whatever, and we could dump it in.
Actually, about that, here, I'm going to throw something out in the chat. This is the link off of our North Keep webpage. I kind of made the demo guest book into an online form, like a Google form, and it gets sent directly to the hospitaler. And it was kind of based on, there's a guest book or there's a hospitaler form on the Kingdom website, but it is, again, it's simple. It's like email, name, and what are your interests. And then I threw in there if they have minor kids or not, because then you can know whether to tell them about children's activities or youth combat and that kind of thing. So that would probably be good to have some kind of form that people could fill out if they were interested in getting
Definitely.
follow-up information.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like that.
What I don't know about, let me see, I'm seeing some questions in the chat. Did anybody ask about attending meetings? Right, they didn't ask, but they were in the same boat because their meetings were also kind of cut short. And that is the hardest question to answer, because we don't know when we're going to be able to do the next meeting. I did, when North Keep was able to have its one fighter practice before all the numbers went nuts, we actually had a newcomer come out to fighter practice based solely on the website. So I would encourage everyone to really look at your website and make sure it's up to date and engaging. And then I was able to tell him also, like, we don't know if we're going to be able to continue with fighter practices. You know, he talked to us for a good long time and is very interested. I said, so go here. He joined our email list, so he gets the information that way, and he joined the Facebook group, so he would get information that way. So we can encourage them at least to, I mean, maybe the other suggestion was to share your screen and show actual activities in motion. Like, I assume that means like videos of activities, so you can show the videos of fighting or cooking over the fire, like the period cooking techniques, and Bardic. And so if you get little clips of that available, ready to pull up, so if somebody shows an interest, you can be like, yeah, and this is what it looks like when we're there in person. And
yeah,
maybe
that's what Orlando and I were talking about too, was having, you know, little videos of like the big stuff at Penzic and Gulf Wars, where you've got combat archery, you've got siege, you've got all of those different things to show them, you know, look, these are all the different things we could do. Or you could, even if you have, you know, because we have siege in our area, film some people just, you know, out in the backyard right now shooting, and have that, you know, ready to pull up. And there's all different kinds of stuff that you
it
could
might
do.
not be bad to have a clip of like a practice and then juxtapose that with a clip of a war, because that's what we practice for, is so we can get together with more of our friends and do more of the things. And so that would be, I know that's usually something that people see, just a drone footage of Gulf Wars encampment or Penzic encampment, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's that many history nerds in the world. Like, what on earth? But it helps people that do have a love for the medieval to have that feeling of, I've found my home, even if they can't go there in person. Maybe we could capitalize on that a bit.
Another thing we were talking about too was having, because I know that people have taught classes where they've done for the ANS tracks, like embroidery on camera or weaving on camera. So, you know, if you don't have people that can attend at that time, maybe finding those kinds of videos to put up as well. Right.
I think that's going to be a really easy thing to do now, with all of the content that is being posted of classes. I do find it, and maybe this is just me, but I don't find it as engaging as even a Zoom meeting where I can get the little bit of back and forth and ask questions in real time, while they're going to be like, wait, what did you do right there? I didn't catch that. And they can go through it again, like slower or closer to the camera. And
definitely.
So,
yeah, if you can have people that are actually interacting with them and they can ask questions, I think that's better for sure.
I have done a couple of.
You were able to do yours at work, so.
I know, it was on my lunch break, so I was like, oh, hey, I could do this.
Yeah, that's perfect.
But oh shoot, I had a thought and it left me. Shoot.
Oh, sorry.
Could you show images of events and activities that have more than 5 people, so it does not require model releases? You take an, and my understanding is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is if you have an image that was taken in a public space, like at an event, then you don't need a model release. It
Right.
is recommended if you're like focused in on a specific person or small group of people, but these general photographs should be open for use.
Yeah. Yeah, you signing the waiver or signing your blue card is kind of a model release at events. So.
Okay. Does anybody else have any ideas or a specific maybe demo that you have coming up that you're trying to brainstorm? Like what kind of ideas do we have, and maybe we can brainstorm a bit more.
Oh, that was another thing I was thinking too, is if you have your B&B available, like you could do like a little short court kind of thing for them to watch, to see the pomp and circumstance that goes along with court. Some people really like that part.
Right. Paula, you were going to say something?
Well, I may have misinterpreted the point of this little round table. I was somehow misunderstood it to read that this was about how to convert to virtual events, not just demos.
Ah.
So
Yeah.
I'm good at promoting things. It's what I do. I have a lot of fun with it. Let me know what to do and I can do this. But shifting to virtual events, which it's a good thing, double-edged sword, it's a good thing, but trying to figure out how do we promote that within our own society. And in some respects, because it's a virtual event, it actually can be a recruitment tool, because it's ways for people to engage in classes and so forth, to learn about what we do. But I guess, my question was, are we just solely talking here about making virtual demos?
Yeah, so that was the purpose of this class. We do have a class in the Virtual Academy recordings that was done about how to do events. And it's a little bit different, right? Because you've got people that are already a part of the SCA for the most part that want to come and do something fun. I've seen a lot of similarities with the virtual demos, but then they all are not demos, excuse me, events, but then they all kind of have their own little spin too. Like you do probably want to have classes because that's something that's pretty easy to do. You usually try to do a court if you have a B&B, or if you can get the Crown to do their court in conjunction with it. We've done a lot of what they call, because I just did one back in June for the Barony of Wiesenfeuer, and we did, what we did was we looked online for like the games that they play at like, oh gosh, Origami Owl or LuLaRoe or something like that. So it's like little online games that they can do, like scavenger hunt, like show us a picture of your favorite scroll, or show us a picture of your favorite garb, or if you don't have garb yet, the kind of garb you'd be interested in creating or something like that. And we had little prizes that we sent out for each of those. When Namron did theirs, they did a cookie exchange. So if you wanted to be a part of the cookie exchange, you signed up beforehand, and if you were local and could drop it off to each other, cool. If you needed to mail it, you figured that out. And so there's still a lot of stuff that you can do virtually. Of course, it's going to be different, but we tried to encourage people to go ahead and get the garb on and set up the space, like with the banners and chairs and everything, so that they feel like they're at the event. So we had what was it? It was like your site or whatever, wherever you were attending from, competition, best dressed, and then a prize for that. And yeah, there's still, if you go check out that video, the girl that did virtual Beltane for Namron taught the class, and she's actually the one that I stole all my ideas from for virtual baronial. So she has some fantastic ideas.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and looks in the chat that there is OSU student organization demo in Stillwater coming up, possibly. how would we encourage participation of attendees without strictly having a ton of time to educate and relate to attendees? Anticipating 10 minutes roughly per group or person that virtually swings by. And also they want 3 pieces of flair to stuff, want 3 pieces of flair to stuff in a bag to get people interested and have them sign up for a door prize. Not a raffle, definitely not a raffle. And then Shadowlands is brainstorming their annual student organization demo as well. Okay, so are they doing the Moonshadow, the Stillwater demo on Zoom, or is it just a strictly web-based, like browser kind of website? They swing by a website.
It's kind of both. They are suggesting people have a link to like some type of meeting software, so people can like meet you and you can talk to people or as people are interested. But
Okay.
there also is a website component as well.
All right.
So yeah, it's going to be a they want us to sort of sit at a table on like Zoom, so people can hop in, and it'll a part of it is going to be we're sort of doing a mini demonstration at a student organization fair, and that is where they'll have like 10 minutes maybe that they care to stay put, and that's only if they're interested. And then there are like 300 other organizations that are trying to get these students' attention. And then after that, we've got a virtual event of sorts coming up in, I think, September. So we're trying to encourage people to participate in that, but that involves signing up, and it's a little bit different than if we were in person.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay.
It does. I'm trying to think about the 10-minute, like, so people pop in and you just say, hey, you know, this is who we are. I would suggest it seemed to be really engaging to have a bunch of stuff in the room with the person on Zoom. So instead of like showing a picture of something and saying what interests you in here, you can say, okay, here's like a little sampling of what we do. What draws your attention? Like what draws your attention about the medieval world? Like, is it the shining armor? Is it the castles? Is it, you know, just what part might be mostly of interest? And then be flexible enough to like have enough people to cover enough different topics that you can pretty much cater to whoever shows up in your room. That might work. And then definitely I would suggest having links saved really handy so that you can drop links to your website, to the link to the event you're going to invite them to for a follow-up, to a Google form, like a little demo sign-up sheet, although that might, with such a short amount of time to talk to them and get their email address, might be asking a little bit much. You probably are going to have better luck with them clicking and liking a page on Facebook. And I don't know, like little stuff to put in the bag. How are they getting bags to the students? Oh, they're just going to show there's this like really awesome bag and then some lucky student gets the whole bag?
No, they're actually setting them up so that they can do like a walkthrough of an area, and they're going to hand them the bag of all of the stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, it's going to be the student union, and they're going to walk by, they're going to get it, and they're going to look through everything and see what they're interested in.
Okay.
Like it's a little up in the air right now because I don't think they've fully come up with a plan yet, because you know no one has a full plan yet in anything.
Yeah.
But I believe that's what they're thinking about right now, something like that, like a drive-through demo information type thing for all the student groups and organizations.
Cool. At my demo, I actually offered the organizer, I said, I can drop by the church and like give you pamphlets and bookmarks and cards if you think they would be interested in that. But then like they weren't there, so it was that didn't work. I know cards aren't really flair though.
I think
That would-
bookmarks they might use, but yeah.
Bookmarks they might use, but something like to really catch their attention and be like, oh my gosh, I better go check this one out would be the gold standard, but I don't know what that would be.
Yeah. I'm trying to think too, and I can't really think of anything.
LC has Ansteora pencils and cups.
Ooh.
Pencils are usually, yeah, that's useful.
Definitely. That would be great. I was thinking that pencils or pens, but it depends on what your budget is too.
Yeah.
And those plastic cups you can get pretty cheap.
Yeah. Ooh, and you could put QR codes on the items that are shared so that it redirects them to your website after
Yeah,
that.
that's a
good.
great idea. Definitely.
All right. Is there anything else we got for this? So I'm not thinking of anything specific. It's really hard to be flexible and make a plan that's going to apply to everything. So if like I know what has to be figured out, then I can work with it.
Caitlin, did you have anything that you wanted to ask about as far as the Shadowlands one that's coming up at Texas A&M? She said it's huge.
Yeah, that is huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, all
Cool.
in the air. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that's welcome to COVID land, right?
Yep. But I think, I was gonna mention like those are specific things that are coming up that we typically do demos at. But we might be able to find demos because there are so many groups that have all of a sudden they stopped. And so now they have no content to present, like libraries. They usually have special little events to present to the public. And now those are they disappeared as well. And so if the local groups are to offer like a little educational, again, like a limited amount of time, just a Zoom thing where people could join in and talk about medieval stuff or a specific medieval thing, then they might actually jump at that. And I think Boy Scout groups and Girl Scout groups and even classrooms, maybe teachers could use content that like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I think a lot of different groups are going to be looking for that sort of thing. So if we can just keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, keep an eye out and have somewhat of a plan, like, at least a format and a few people that you can say, hey, we got this thing, we got a request, can you come to this? Then that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think it's great that you guys were able to do one online, and I've had, some hospitalers be like, well, we're not really doing anything right now. We can't really do anything right now. I'm like, we have an online avenue, guys. We just have to figure out how to use it. So
yeah,
really would be good if it because we've got another, 6 months now that this is all we got. We got to figure out how to do it.
So this is like weird stuff that's not really demo-like because it's not going to be toward a group of people specifically. But Parrot and I are going to start taking walks in garb when the weather's nice for it, just for the heck of it. Because I'm like, there's Turkey Mountain, there's like a park, and it's just got these nice wooded trails. We can just go we're not Vikings, but we can go hiking anyway in garb, maybe have a little picnic, and if it gets some attention, well, so be it.
Yeah, take
and
cards
have,
with
like,
you, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have a few cards, and I haven't even mentioned this to them, but we have children that also do rapier fighting, and so if somebody were to request a demo, we could technically send some kids to go fight in their yard. I mean,
Yeah.
It might not be super entertaining, but I think it's usually funny.
Well, and we talked about the other day on the just the service-minded individuals get together at Roundtable, something that we could all do like within our groups, since I have a landed baroness actually. Well, I had two. I think the other one's gone. But anyway, I have one. Have all the people in your group plan a night out on the porch night where, they wear their garb and they sit on their front porch and they have cards and, because a lot of people are getting out and walking right now. Maybe not right now because it's hot, but maybe when it cools off a little bit. And then you guys, it can be a fun thing for the group to do because you can all post pictures and videos of you sitting out on your porch. So that's a fun bonding thing for the group. But then it's also a recruitment thing because if people happen to walk by and ask what you're doing, you can have pamphlets and cards ready to send them.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to have like a corner lot or something to where maybe your backyard pell actually shows to people passing by, we actually have someone in Wildwood who has his pell, like he's right there on the corner of 2 streets doing pell work every day, and he said he got a lot of people stopping and saying, "What are you doing?" So
that's how ours is. And actually, when we first moved here, our neighbor thought Orlando was really rude because he would wave every morning, early in the morning, and Orlando never waved back. He was waving at the Pell. He said, "Man, I thought you were so rude. You weren't waving back to me." He said, and then I drove by one day when it was lighter out and said, "Oh, that's not him."
That's great.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
But yeah, some of the drive-by stuff, some of the just the being out on the porch and being out in garb, it's a way to get us seen in the community, so they at least know that we exist and can ask questions if they're interested.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jehanne. I appreciate it. Does anybody have any other questions or anything else they want to talk about before we let everybody go for the evening?
Okay, I will stop the recording now.